Perhaps you dislike something, while Allah places in it much good. Surah An-Nisa 4, verse 19. The Quran begins this journey with a subtle whisper, a reminder that the things which break you may be the very things meant to build you. This is not just a verse. It is a mirror reflecting the hidden reality of your life. Because there comes a moment for every believer when the heart cracks, the soul trembles, and everything you were holding on to slips out of your hands. A relationship you thought would last forever, a dream that kept you alive, a prayer you repeated night after night, a path you were so sure Allah cleared for you. And then suddenly, everything collapses. We often ask, why would Allah let this happen to me? But the truth is deeper than the pain you feel. Because when Allah breaks your heart, He is not destroying you. He is reshaping you, redirecting you, preparing you for a path your eyes couldn't yet see, but your soul was always meant to walk. To understand this, one must first understand the nature of pain in Islam. Pain is not random. Pain is not meaningless. Pain is not a punishment for the believer. It is a divine signal, a spiritual alarm that tells you, your story is about to change. The scholars say, Allah does not break a heart He wants to lose. He breaks the hearts He wants to rebuild, elevate, and bring closer to Him. And this opening, this shift, this redirection rarely comes quietly. Sometimes Allah takes away the very thing you begged Him for. Sometimes He closes a door you thought was your destiny. Sometimes He removes a person you believed you couldn't live without. Sometimes He lets you taste loneliness so deep that the only place left to turn is sujood. But the believer knows something others don't. When Allah removes something, He is making space for something greater. The Prophet said, if Allah wants good for His servant, He tests him. Meaning Allah does not test to break you. He tests to cleanse you, to detach you, to soften your heart, and to elevate your rank. Nothing purifies a heart like the moment it breaks for the sake of Allah. Nothing strengthens faith like the moment you realize Allah is all you have and all you need. And nothing opens new paths like the moment you surrender your old ones. But before we go deeper, let's begin with a story that reminds us that every heartbreak in a believer's life is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of divine attention. There was once a young man, someone with dreams, ambitions, and a heart full of hope. He had planned his life meticulously. The career he wanted, the woman he wished to marry, the country he wanted to move to. Everything seemed perfect, too perfect. He would wake up every night for tahajjud, asking Allah to make this path easy. And for a while, it seemed like Allah was answering every prayer. But then, one after another, doors began to close. The job offer was suddenly withdrawn. The woman he intended to marry walked away without explanation. His visa application was rejected. His heart shattered, and his faith trembled. For months he asked Allah, why? Why take everything away when I was asking with sincerity? But what he didn't know was that the path he was choosing was a path that would destroy him spiritually. The marriage he wanted would pull him away from Allah. The job he was chasing would consume him until he forgot his own soul. The life he envisioned was a life Allah, in His mercy, did not want for him. 2 years later, another door opened, one he never expected, a job that brought him closer to Deen, a spouse that reignited his faith, a path far more beautiful than the one he cried over. And only then did he understand, Allah didn't break his heart to punish him. Allah broke his heart to protect him. This story is not unique. It is the story of millions of believers. Perhaps it is even your story, because Allah doesn't just break hearts randomly. He breaks hearts with precision. He breaks what is not written for you, so He can open what is destined for you. He breaks the attachment, so He can open the reliance. He breaks the illusion, so He can open the truth. He breaks the temporary, so He can open the eternal. Before any path opens for a believer, something inside must first break. Not because Allah enjoys your pain, He is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, but because what stands between you and your destined path is often something hidden deep inside your heart. An attachment, an expectation, a fear, a dependence on something that was never meant to carry the weight of your soul. Allah says in Surah Ash-Shar, "Did we not expand for you your chest and removed from you your burden?" Quran 94:1, verse 2. Notice how Allah begins the surah by expanding the chest, opening it, widening it, making space inside it, but only after removing the burden. This is the spiritual law. Before expansion, there must be emptiness. Before openness, there must be removal. Before the new path, the old one must break. The scholars say, Allah does not fill a heart that is full, meaning He cannot pour guidance, clarity, or a new beginning into a heart crowded with what He intends to replace. So He breaks it, not out of cruelty, but out of a love so deep that He dismantles what is harming you even when you can't see it. Because if He allows you to continue with a heart full of unhealthy attachments, you will build a life on foundations that were never meant to hold you. Think about it. If you plant seeds in soil full of rocks, the plant will grow weak, even if it grows at all. Allah removes those rocks from your heart even when you scream for Him to leave them, because He knows they will suffocate your growth. Sometimes the rock is a person. Sometimes it's a dream. Sometimes it's your own ego, your own desires, your own illusions. But Allah removes each one with precision, gently or suddenly, but always intentionally. A broken heart is Allah performing spiritual surgery. You feel the cut, but you don't see the healing that follows. Look at Prophet Abraham. Allah told him to leave Hajar and their baby Ismail in a barren desert with nothing. A heartbreaking command, a lonely place, a place that looked like an ending.
But that desert became Mecca, the center of the Muslim world and the birthplace of the greatest spiritual journey. Sometimes Allah sends you into a desert to build a Kaaba in your heart. This is the divine logic behind a breaking heart. Allah removes what you think you need to give you what you truly need. He breaks the temporary to reveal the eternal. He breaks your plan to give you His. He breaks your comfort to grant you purpose. He breaks your illusion to show you the truth. And that truth is simple. Allah never breaks a believer's heart except to rebuild it upon something stronger. There is a moment in every believer's life when Allah removes something you were convinced you couldn't live without, a person you thought was your future, an opportunity you prayed tirelessly for, a path you believed was written for you, and when it slips away, your heart feels like it's collapsing inward, like something essential has been ripped from your soul. But Allah says, and it may be that you dislike something, while Allah brings through it a great deal of good. Surah An-Nisa 4, verse 19. This verse is not theoretical. It is the lived reality of every soul that has ever walked toward Allah. Because the human heart clings to people, to dreams, to illusions, even to things that were never meant for it. And when we cling too tightly to what harms us, blinds us, or limits us, Allah removes it, not to break us, but to free us. The scholars of the heart say, attachment is the prison of the believer. When you attach to someone as your source of comfort, they become your weakness. When you attach to a dream as your definition of happiness, its loss becomes your destruction. When you attach to your own plans, a closed door feels like betrayal. So Allah, in His mercy, removes the chains you didn't realize were chaining you. Think of the story of the boy in Surah Al-Kahf who was killed by Khidr by Allah's wisdom. On the surface, it appeared cruel, unbearable to the parents who had lost their child, but Allah explains that this child would have grown to be a source of unbearable misery and spiritual corruption for their righteous parents. So, Allah removed the child to protect the future of their iman. He closed one path to open another. This is divine mercy in disguise. Now think about your own life, the person who left, the door that closed, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. What if Allah removed it because He saw something you couldn't? You see the moment, Allah sees the lifetime. You see the heartbreak, Allah sees the consequences. You see the loss, Allah sees the protection. Sometimes Allah removes a person to protect your mental peace. Sometimes He removes a job to protect your integrity. Sometimes He removes a dream to protect your afterlife. The truth is painful, but beautiful. Allah removes what you cling to because He wants you to cling to Him alone. When Allah takes something from your hand, He is freeing your hand so He can place something better in it. But until you let go, your hands remain too full to receive His gift. Every removal is gentle guidance. Every loss is a redirection. Every separation is protection. Every no from Allah is a doorway to a better yes. You think your world is falling apart, but in reality, your world is falling into place. People think heartbreak is the end. In Islam, heartbreak is often the beginning. A heart doesn't break randomly. It breaks with precision. It breaks with purpose. It breaks with Allah's knowledge of what must fall apart for you to rise. Allah says, Allah knows while you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2 verse 216. And sometimes what He knows is that the version of you holding on right now cannot walk the path He has written for your future. Allah uses heartbreak the way a master craftsman uses tools, to carve away what is unnecessary, to shape what is still rough, to expose the beauty hidden beneath layers of illusion. You think your heart is shattering. Allah is simply removing what blocks the light. The Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah intends good for someone, He afflicts him. Not affliction to punish, but affliction to transform. Look at your life. Think deeply. Were you closer to Allah during comfort or during pain? Most people whisper dua when they're comfortable, but they cry dua when their heart breaks. And do you know what the scholars say? The dua that rises from a broken heart never returns unanswered, because a broken heart is soft, unmasked, stripped of ego, stripped of pride, stripped of distractions. It becomes real. Sometimes Allah breaks your heart because He's about to give you a dua you couldn't earn with a comfortable life. Pain births sincerity. Sincerity opens doors. Doors open destinies.
Think of Maryam. She was alone, exhausted, overwhelmed. In a moment of heartbreak so heavy, she said, "I wish I had died before this." And right there, in the middle of her collapse, Allah gave her a miracle that changed the world. Your heartbreak is not a sign of your weakness. It's the birthplace of your miracle. But here is the truth we often resist. Allah cannot transform a heart that is full of itself. So He breaks it, gently or forcefully, so that the light of guidance can finally enter. Sometimes He breaks you to rebuild your humility. Sometimes He breaks you to break your attachment to dunya. Sometimes He breaks you because the version of you that existed before the heartbreak was not capable of carrying the blessing He's preparing. The heartbreak is not the destination, it is the bridge. A bridge from who you were to who you're meant to become. But this brings us to something deeper, something most people never realize, something that takes heartbreak from painful to sacred. The question is not just, why does Allah break your heart? The real question, the life-changing question is, what does Allah place inside the heart after it breaks that He could not place before? One of the greatest illusions during heartbreak is believing that your story has collapsed. But with Allah, a collapse is rarely an ending. It is usually an interruption, a redirection, a rewrite. Allah says, "Perhaps your Lord will replace it with something better." Surah Al-Kahf, 18 verse 16. This is not poetic comfort. It is a promise, a formula, a divine pattern repeated throughout the Qur'an and across history. When Allah closes a chapter, He does not leave your life blank. He writes something else, something you could not write for yourself. Look at Prophet Yusuf. His life wasn't a straight line of blessings. It was a sequence of painful interruptions. A well, a slave market, a false accusation, a prison cell. Each event looked like a setback, but every single one was a building block. If even one moment of heartbreak had been removed, the entire story would fall apart. No betrayal. He never leaves home. No slavery. He never enters Egypt. No prison. He never meets the man who will open the door to the king. Without the heartbreaks, there would be no throne. Your life works the same way. What you call a detour may be the exact road Allah needs you to take. What you call loss may be the removal of what blocks your destiny. What you call delay may be Allah positioning the right blessing at the right time. Sometimes the heartbreak you're experiencing is simply Allah saying, "The direction you're heading is beneath the destiny I've written for you." And so He closes it, even if you cry for it, even if you planned years around it, because Allah will never allow you to settle for a life smaller than the one He created you for. There is a powerful truth in Surah Yusuf. Not once does Allah say the pain was pointless. Not once does He say the suffering was wasted. Every difficulty carried him closer to authority, wisdom, and honor. Likewise, the moment that shattered your heart might be the exact moment that saved your future. Your heartbreak did not destroy your story, it protected it. But here is the part that most people never understand. Sometimes the breakthrough does not come after the heartbreak, it begins during it. Because while you're grieving, Allah is already rearranging things behind the scenes. While you're questioning, angels are already being sent with sustenance.
While you're hurting, your future is already being prepared with precision. The rewrite begins the moment the heart breaks. But that leads to the next, deeper reality, one that changes how you see every hardship that has ever touched you. Allah does not rewrite your story without first rewriting your heart. There are certain doors in life that only open when something within you shifts. Not a small shift, a profound one. A shift that changes your judgment, your priorities, your reliance, your entire inner direction. Pain forces that shift. Allah says, "Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves." Surah Ar-Ra'd 13 verse 11. We often quote this verse, but rarely understand its depth. Some blessings are withheld because the version of you standing today cannot carry what Allah intends to give tomorrow. There are certain doors in life that only open when your heart becomes capable of receiving what is behind them. And heartbreak, as difficult as it feels, creates the exact internal transformation needed to unlock those doors.
You lose a relationship, and suddenly you see the signs you once ignored. You lose an opportunity, and your clarity becomes sharper than before. You lose a plan you built your future on, and your decision-making becomes rooted in wisdom rather than emotion. Pain does not just soften the heart, it educates it. It teaches you restraint. It teaches you discernment. It teaches you to differentiate between desires and destiny. Look at the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Many of them were shaped not by ease, but by trials that awakened something dormant inside them. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, didn't become the man he became through comfort. It was hardship, loss, and internal struggle that forged him into a leader whose heart carried both strength and mercy. The same applies to you. Sometimes the door Allah wants to open for you requires a heart that is more patient, more humble, more God-conscious, more willing to submit, a heart that pain molds. You cannot walk into certain destinies with the same emotional patterns that once trapped you, so Allah breaks them, bit by bit, moment by moment. A closed door today may be protection from entering too early, before you were ready. And sometimes it's not the blessing that isn't ready, it's you. But here is something crucial. The door that pain unlocks is not always a worldly opportunity. Sometimes it's a spiritual opening that becomes the foundation for every worldly blessing after it. A level of connection with Allah that you never tasted during ease. A level of sincerity in your dua that only comes when tears fall freely. A level of reliance that transforms the way you walk through life. Pain, when connected to Allah, does not return empty-handed. It unlocks something inside you that comfort never could. But this raises a deeper question, a question that touches the root of every heartbreak. What exactly is Allah building inside you when He allows your heart to break? And this brings us to the heart of what Ibn al-Qayyim wanted every believer to understand. Inner peace is not something you wait for. It is something you build deliberately, step by step, through spiritual habits that protect the heart from chaos. Ibn al-Qayyim explains that the heart becomes restless for two main reasons. 1. Unhealthy attachments. These are attachments that compete with Allah for space in your heart, attachments to people, outcomes, praise, image, money, control, or even your own plans. He writes that the heart becomes unstable when it depends on anything that can break, change, or disappoint. Anything tied to dunya is temporary, and anything temporary cannot give permanent peace. So Ibn al-Qayyim teaches the cure. Cut the ropes that tie your heart to creation and tie it only to the Creator. This does not mean abandoning people, life, ambition, or effort. It means letting your heart breathe by not placing your emotional survival on anything that can slip away. 2. Unrealistic expectations. Ibn al-Qayyim says that the second thief of inner peace is expecting life to be smooth, people to be perfect, and events to unfold exactly as we imagine. Disappointment grows where unrealistic expectations live. So he reminds, whoever accepts Allah's decree finds rest, and whoever argues with fate lives in anxiety. Meaning, life will test you, people will misunderstand you, plans will collapse, du'as will delay. Peace begins when you stop fighting the nature of dunya and start trusting the wisdom behind Allah's timing. Ibn al-Qayyim gives a powerful formula. Whenever something troubles you, transform it into an act of worship. How? 1. Through sabr. Not silent suffering, but intelligent endurance that says, Ya Allah, I don't understand this test, but I trust you. This mindset alone can calm the storm inside you. 2. Through dua. Ibn al-Qayyim writes that dua is the weapon that turns fear into strength because it shifts your focus from the problem to the one who controls the solution. He says, if you knew how Allah listens to your heart when you call on Him, you would never worry again.
3. Through remembering Allah. Dhikr is not repetition, it is returning. Returning from the chaos of dunya to the safety of divine presence. He explains, Dhikr polishes the heart until it can finally see clearly. Ibn al-Qayyim describes a level of inner peace where your heart becomes calm even during chaos. Your mind becomes steady even when plans collapse. Your soul becomes content even when dunya withholds. He calls this state resting in Allah. This is the tranquility you feel when you know Allah chooses better than you. Allah protects you from what you don't see. Allah delays because the timing is not right. Allah withholds because what you asked for would have harmed you. Allah tests you because He wants to elevate you. This is not passive peace, it is active surrender. It is the kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances, but on closeness. Ibn al-Qayyim says that when the heart reaches this state, storms may come, but nothing inside breaks. Because your peace is no longer built on dunya, it is built on the one who never changes. Ibn al-Qayyim says that the greatest transformation of the heart happens when a believer reaches a point where they can say with full truth, if I have Allah, I have everything. If I lose everything but still have Allah, I've lost nothing. This is not a slogan, it is a spiritual reality. It is a shift from chasing people to chasing the one who controls hearts, chasing outcomes to trusting the one who writes destiny, chasing dunya to finding joy in the one who created it. He explains that the moment Allah becomes enough for you, life stops controlling you. People no longer shake your worth.
Loss no longer destroys your hope. Fear no longer steals your sleep. Stress no longer controls your breathing. Why? Because your heart finally has a foundation that can't be taken away. Ibn al-Qayyim describes the type of heart that Allah shields from anxiety. 1. A heart that relies on Him in moments of fear. When something scares you, you don't run to people first, you run to Allah. A heart that remembers Him when overwhelmed, not because dhikr is a habit, but because it has become oxygen. A heart that surrenders to His decree, not because life is easy, but because you trust the One who controls life. A heart purified from envy, comparison, and ego. These three diseases poison peace. Removing them allows the heart to breathe again. Allah promises in the Qur'an, "Truly, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Ibn al-Qayyim says this is not poetry, it is a formula. A heart filled with Allah cannot be filled with panic. Ibn al-Qayyim narrates the story of a man who faced one hardship after another. People thought he would break. Instead, he remained steady, calm, and filled with peace. When asked how he did it, he said, "I closed the door of the past, I trusted the One who controls the future, and I lived with Allah in the present." Ibn al-Qayyim explains the wisdom behind this. The past steals your peace through regret. The future steals your peace through fear. Only the present moment is where Allah meets you. Inner peace comes from living in the present with Allah, not reliving the past or panicking about tomorrow. Ibn al-Qayyim ends with a message that feels like a gentle touch on the heart. Peace is not something you chase. Peace is something you uncover. It is already inside you, hidden beneath layers of fear, worry, stress, doubt, and attachment. When you purify your intentions, trust Allah's decree, stay consistent in dhikr, detach your heart from creation, turn worries into worship, accept what Allah chooses for you. The peace that was buried under the noise of dunya finally rises to the surface. It is the peace that can't be taken away, the peace that does not depend on circumstance, the peace that remains even when everything else changes. Ibn al-Qayyim calls this the serenity of a heart that knows its Lord. And that is the inner peace every believer is capable of reaching.